Time to light the match for the burning truth with Casey Hendrickson.
Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to The Burning Truth. I am your host, Casey Hendrickson. I do want to thank R&B Car Company, locations in South Bend, Warsaw, and Fort Wayne. Go to rbcarcompany.com. Let them know that I sent you. You can also watch the live stream on Rumble. Go to rumble.com/Casey the host. Thank you to everybody hanging out with us today. Do appreciate it. A lot of new subscribers to the newsletter, a lot of new followers on X, a lot of new followers and subscribers on Rumble over the past couple of weeks. I do appreciate that, especially considering I was in Europe with the biggest. I was in Europe. I don't know what happened because I don't know what you guys are running on the show, but I had a ton of people sign up for my newsletter when I was in Europe. I'm I'm not even doing anything. What's happening? So I appreciate that. It's all free. And unlike others, I won't hand over your emails to a friend of mine whose business is failing so they can try and get some attention. So I won't do that to you. I may sell it to the Venezuelans at some point, but it all really depends on how bad my drug habit is. All right, so we have PolitiFact, and I just want to go back to this because I think this is unfortunately been the narrative. Democrats here's what they're doing. They're telling you that the people of Springfield, Ohio are racist when the story originated with not one but multiple people at a city council meeting, including a black man who happens to be running for mayor, I think, telling you that people are killing geese in the park. Now, there aren't that many reporters who actually have decided to go look at the story. There are some reporters like we saw with ABC who went out there and said, hey, we contacted the city manager. Yeah, because city officials would never lie about any of that, right? How many times have I contacted city officials about a story that was out there and they lied about it? In fact, we just had one with the city of South Bend about the buses with the migrant people at the Social Security office. Right, Morgan? Remember that? We got a nice lie about that, didn't we? They called Congressman Jim Banks a racist. They called me a racist, called a bunch of other people a racist for assuming that these people are migrants. No, people assumed that they were migrants because bus loads of them were bused to the Social Security office, not because of the color of their skin. Not a common thing. I don't know of any elementary schools that bus kids to the Social Security office for a tour. I'm not very exciting things happening at the Social Security office from what I'm being told. So I don't know. It's just bizarre. It's weird. And they lied about it. So local officials tend to do that. They tend to lie about that stuff. So any reporter who's just like, local officials say that you're not telling the truth. Well, here's the thing. What we do know, this is fact in Springfield, Ohio. Okay, here's what we have. A lot of residents of Springfield, Ohio have talked about the pets being consumed and the geese being consumed. Okay, the geese in the park. They have one park there. That is a fact. I can't tell you definitively if the cats and dogs angle is 100% true or is widespread. Do I believe that some of the Haitians that are there are actually probably good people trying to better their lives? Yeah, I do. That's not relevant. The real issue is whether or not there is, in fact, instances of pets being nabbed and consumed. What I can tell you is a fact is in neighboring communities, there are cases where that happened with the Haitian migrants. So it's not far-fetched to assume that it might be happening in Springfield as well. There are too many people in Springfield that are definitively telling you that it's going on for you to just say, oh, it's a lie. I can't prove to you that it's happening in large quantities. I can prove to you that it's happening with the geese. That's a confirmed story. The geese thing is a confirmed story. There are 911 calls. There are police records. And you have a Canada geese population at that lake in the park that is now a heck of a lot smaller than it used to be. So the assumption is that since the population at the park is a lot smaller than it usually is, and that the geese are disappearing from the park, one might assume that all of the people saying that they've been consuming those geese might actually be like a real thing. And for the record, we're talking about voodoo as well, okay? Do you remember when they told you that Haitians were not cannibals? And not all Haitians are. Do you remember that? That was a storyline just a couple of years ago. Oh, it's racist to call Haitians cannibals or to say that there's cannibalism. Listen, there is widespread cannibalism in Haiti. Widespread. Always has been. They tried to tell you that that wasn't a real story, that that was racist. That's what the news media told you. And of course, it was proven that the news media was lying to you. All I'm saying is there is, without a doubt, examples of this happening with domesticated animals in neighboring areas. Without a doubt, it is happening to the geese. And there are a lot of people in Springfield, Ohio, which are all over social media. They're all being interviewed by independent reporters. They're all up there on YouTube and Rumble and other places where they're being interviewed, and they're all telling you what they have witnessed. Now, is it possible that every single one of those people is lying to you? Maybe. What is more likely, though? Let me ask you this question. What's more likely? Almost everybody in Springfield, Ohio lying to you? Or a single government official who has not talked to the press since then lying to you? Which one is more likely? I tend to ascribe to the government employee lying more than anybody else. But that's just, my own cynicism. Now, I would also like to throw out another thing. And I know that we brought this up last week, and I'm going to bring it up again. The pet consuming thing is not the relevant part of the story. The relevant part of the story is that Haitians who came over from Haiti because the mayor of the town was paid by the federal government to do it. Yes, that is a fact. That they get their driver's license by simply walking into the DMV and getting it. They get a 45-day re-upping license. So for 45 days, they can drive. They come back in. They get it again. They come back in. They get it again. They don't have to do the same testing and all of that stuff before they can drive. Now, as a result of that, several people have been seriously hurt, and even children have been killed by Haitians driving in Springfield, Ohio. It's a small town, folks. There aren't that many people there. I think the town itself is between 50 and 60,000 people. They got 20,000 or so Haitians there, okay? So this is a small town that is getting completely changed and upended. Their rents are going through the roof. What's happening is landlords are kicking out their tenants the moment they can, and they're putting Haitian migrants in. Do you know why? Because the Haitian migrants get federal money, and they get more in rent, which means rent is being driven up. So now residents are having an issue being able to afford their homes. Veterans were interviewed by reporters on the ground in Springfield, Ohio, which Pete Buttigieg and other Democrats want to ignore, about how they are losing benefits that they are getting from the community, that they used to get from the community, because those resources are now going to the Haitian migrants. There are stories of the grocery store being sold out of wide swaths of necessary goods because the Haitian migrants have been walking in with their government money and buying up all of those supplies. Now, you have a small town. Think about it this way. You have a small town. This isn't a big city where you can just go to a different grocery store. There's limited supplies in this town. So when the grocery store runs out of stuff, they run out of stuff until they get a resupply of it. It's not like in most of the listening area here where you just go to a different grocery store and pick up all of the stuff. It's a small community with not a lot of options. All of these things, the violent crime as well, the traffic accidents, the economic impact, the resources of the city being diverted away from its citizens to these migrants, the mayor getting a payout from the federal government for doing it. Not the only mayor in the country to get that, by the way. You've got all of these things. Those are the story of Springfield, Ohio. The Biden administration, and Pete Buttigieg in particular, seem to really not like the people of Ohio. Where's East Palestine again? Morgan, remind me. East Palestine's where? Oh, that's right.
Ohio?
It's in Ohio. Who was absent for the East Palestine train disaster? Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden. Who didn't care at all about what the people of East Palestine, Ohio were saying? Well, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, they didn't care at all about anything that those people were saying. Why did they ignite one of the train cars? They told you that they needed to burn off those chemicals, right? And now we have the report from the federal government saying that was completely unnecessary and actually polluted the entire area. Huh. They really don't like rural Ohio, do they? Listen, they can go ahead and steer the narrative away from the damage that is being done to this town and other towns from the similar policies that they're using. But at the end of the day, when Pete Buttigieg and Karine Jean-Pierre, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris go out there and they tell you that none of the things that hundreds of people in Springfield, Ohio are telling you are true, when they say they're all lying, can you really believe them? Or should you, by the sheer sake that there is a volume of accusations coming from numerous people in Springfield, Ohio, where there are video interviews, yes, there are physical evidence of the geese story, wouldn't it make more sense to at least give them an opportunity to plead their case? If you're a journalist and you're a reporter for ABC or anybody else, and you start hearing that this stuff is happening, doesn't it make sense for you to go there? Why is it that there's only independent journalists in Springfield, Ohio? Why aren't any of the major networks there? This thing is still dominating the news cycle. It's a little town in Ohio. It's dominating the news cycle right now because it's being used to attack Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and anybody else. But nobody who's attacking them is actually talking about the issues that the people of Springfield, Ohio are talking about. So why aren't there any major networks going to Springfield, Ohio? Why aren't they talking to anybody? I think you know the answer to that. So I ran into a story in the Federalist. A, quote, misinformation reporter for the far-left fact-checking organization PolitiFact, who tried to discredit the Federalist report on Haitian immigrants hunting geese in Springfield, Ohio, has a history of whitewashing far-left radicalism. On Sunday, Laura Ben Takaro sought to undermine Federalist coverage of an audio recording of a police call in Springfield, wherein a local resident reported a group of Haitians carrying dead geese. I'm sitting here, I'm riding on the trail, I'm going to my orientation for my job today, and I see a group of Haitian people. There were about 4 of them, and they all had geese in their hand. That's what the caller told the public dispatcher. I'm time crunching here, and I saw that. I'm like, yeah, this has got to be reported. The police audio came as other residents of the community of roughly 60,000, overwhelmed by more than 20,000 Haitians, complained of spotting immigrants hunting geese in the local parks. Takaro said that the call was problematic, however, because officials found no proof. Well, it's sort of weird because the reporters that are on the ground there, they're all documenting how the population of geese in that park is dwindling. The geese haven't migrated yet. Hey, Morgan, if they haven't migrated, but they're not there anymore, where might they be? I mean, seriously, crab people could have got them. I don't know. Just asking. When was the last time you saw Canada geese just disappear? That's not what they do. They tend to replicate like too damn much. Okay? So you start running into this stuff. And at the very least, you have got to say, all right, there's a lot of people in Springfield, Ohio that are saying this. Maybe it's a mass hysteria and they're all just, whatever. I don't know. Okay? But you have got to ask that question. But at the end of the day, the geese, the potential consuming or killing of pets isn't the relevant story. The relevant story that they desperately don't want you to see is that that town has been decimated and destroyed by a massive influx of immigrants that their mayor got paid to take. And it is causing serious harm to the people who grew up there and live there and are American citizens. And Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and Karine Jean-Pierre and anybody else in the news media, they do not want to tell you that story, which is why major networks have not bothered to go there. We got more coming up. You're tuned into The Burning Truth.
Kamala Harris opens the border, and now these people are suffering. That's what I'm focused on, Dana.
Senator, I have to go through several things that you just said. First of all, the Clark County Sheriff and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources reviewed 11 months of 911 calls. They only identified 2 instances of people alleging Haitians were taking geese out of parks. They found 0 evidence to substantiate those claims. Also, other evidence that you have talked about, even you've retweeted, alleged evidence, are unsourced social media videos from a different city apparently no connection to Haitians. And this is from a conservative activist who offered a $5,000 reward for such things. And then going just backly to the schools and the hospitals and so forth being overwhelmed, nobody is disputing that the town of Springfield, Ohio, needs help. But you're not just a bystander. You're the senator from Ohio. So instead of saying things that are wrong and actually causing the hospitals, the schools, the government buildings to be evacuated because of bomb threats, because of the cats and dogs thing, why not actually be constructive in helping to better integrate them into the community? Because there are a lot of employers there who say that the Haitian workers are helping fill jobs that they need desperately filled.
Dana, first of all, let me just respond to a couple of things that you said, but I want to start with something you said, which I think is frankly disgusting and is more appropriate for a Democratic propagandist than it is for an American journalist. There is nothing that I have said that has led to threats against these hospitals. These hospitals, the bomb threats and so forth, it's disgusting. The violence is disgusting. We condemn it. We condemn all violence.
Senator, this happened after you and President Trump were on the debate stage, said that cats and dogs were being eaten.
You asked a question, Dana, and I'm going to go ahead and answer it.
I'm going to pause this real quick. I want to sidebar real quick here. Dana Bash just blamed Trump and J.D. Vance for violent threats against a hospital. Did she not? Right? That's just what happened. And she says, after Trump said that on the debate stage, that's what caused this. So let me ask you another question. Dana Bash and others lying about Trump saying neo-Nazis were very fine people, wouldn't that also qualify as an instigator of violence then, using her own logic? What about the lie that Trump said he'd be a dictator on day one? What about the bloodbath lie? What about the Russia collusion hoax lie? What about all of that? If Dana Bash's position is that Donald Trump talking about cats and dogs led to violent threats, then wouldn't the media be as culpable when they say those things as well? You notice that they never turn the lens on themselves. All right, it continues.
What we have said is that this town has suffered terribly under the policies of Kamala Harris. Now, you just accused me of inciting violence against the community when all that I've done is surface the complaints of my constituents, people who are suffering because of Kamala Harris's policies. Are we not allowed to talk about these problems because some psychopaths are threatening violence? We can condemn the violence on the one hand, but also talk about the terrible consequences of Kamala Harris's open border on the other hand.
Yep, 100% correct. Isn't it interesting? Got more coming up. You're tuned into The Burning Truth.
The Burning Truth with Casey Hendrickson.
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning into The Burning Truth. I am your host, Casey Hendrickson. Don't forget that you can follow me online at Casey the Host. Again, I'm most active on X and Instagram. So go check them out. At Casey the Host on X or Instagram. I can't follow you. You can't follow me on Facebook. I am banned on Facebook. People keep sending me Facebook links. So now I have a decision to make. Do I make just like an account so I can see that stuff? I'm really not interested in building Facebook again. I'm sick and tired of it. Like, I've spent years dealing with them. I'm kind of over it. So if I have one, it is going to be purely about being able to view links and stuff like that. I'm not even going to tell any of you what it is. It's really not interested in that. So I don't know. We'll see. The RNC has filed a lawsuit against the Michigan Secretary of State. The Republican National Committee is suing Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Crazy Eyes Benson after allegedly finding signature verification markers absent from thousands of ballots in the state's primary election. Like I said, they're setting up Michigan to be impossible to win for a Republican. Our Secretary of State is actively interfering in Michigan's elections, disregarding the very laws that she's supposed to enforce, said Michigan Republican Party Chairman Pete Hoekstra in a Thursday press release. The Michigan Republican Party will never stop fighting for the safety and security of our elections so every single Michigander can feel confident in their vote. The RNC, the Michigan GOP, and the Chesterfield Township Clerk Cindy Berry sued Benson and Director of Elections Jonathan Brader for issuing incomplete guidance on ballot verification, which then caused confusion. The suit was filed last Thursday, and it claims thousands of absentee ballots in the Detroit suburb of Warren were apparently counted in the state's August 6th primary, despite the complete absence of a statement by the clerk on the corresponding return envelope that the absent voter ballot is approved for tabulation. So if it's not approved for tabulation, I know this is not something that you're all familiar with, but if it's not approved for tabulation, you are not supposed to count it, and yet they did. Plaintiffs claim that state law requires 2 markers to be present on ballots before they can be tabulated: the date that the ballot was received and a statement showing the clerk has verified the voter's signature. If you don't verify the signature, ladies and gentlemen, I know that this is rudimentary, but if you don't verify the signature, how do you know the authorized voter is the one who filled out the damn ballot? Pretty simple stuff, right? So if you don't verify the signature and there's no verification that the signature is correct and that you can count the ballot, why are they counting the ballots that were not supposed to be tabulated? Michigan election law states that written or stamped on each absent voter ballot return envelope must be the date, the time, and date, if received, on election day, that the absent voter ballot return envelope was received, and a statement by the city or township clerk that the absent voter ballot is approved for tabulation. If it isn't, you don't count the vote. Here is what is not up for debate about 2020. I know that this isn't about 2020, but what's not up for debate about the 2020 election is ballots that would be illegal in any other election, in any other presidential election year, were counted as legitimate, and the excuse is, but COVID. But it's an illegal ballot. But COVID. But this ballot does not meet the qualifications to be tabulated. But COVID. Okay, but again, this is an illegal ballot that should not have been counted, but you counted it. But COVID. And the news media is like, yeah, but COVID. That was the excuse. The latter was allegedly missing from ballots in Warren. Plaintiffs claim incomplete guidance material from Benson's office contributed to the issue. Jocelyn Benson has been in her position for an extended number of years, folks. She's been there since Gretchen Whitmer's been in office. So she's more than one term. She should probably understand how to do this, right? So when you have the Secretary of State's office who can't get the basics correct, you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. Is she that dumb? Or is this maybe on purpose? I suppose the other option would be, are they that lazy and inept? I suppose I would have lumped that into the dumb category, but you may not. State law mandates in part that after verifying each voter's signature, clerks must include on each approved ballot return envelope a statement by the city or township clerk that the absent voter ballot is approved for tabulation. This is all in the lawsuit. Benson's guidance, included as an exhibit in the suit, acknowledges that clerks should mark the date that the ballot was received and then verify the signatures. And if they don't match, contact the voter to cure them. Now, curing the vote, all that is, when you hear the term cure, and I've done a lot of time trying to explain this to everybody because I think it's going to be a big issue in the next presidential election. All curing the vote is you have some information on that absentee ballot that doesn't pass the smell test. So you go to the voter and you make sure that the voter who is supposed to have voted is the one who voted. You prove that the ballot is legitimate. And once you do that in person, the ballot can be counted. Or you find out that maybe their cousin Jed filled out the ballot and he filled it out the wrong way and they're mad about it and now they're hitting him over the head with a pin. I don't know. You have to figure that out. That's the whole point of curing the vote. If you don't cure the vote, the ballot cannot be counted because there is no reason to assume the ballot is not fraudulent. You have to prove the ballot is legit. If you don't prove the ballot is legit, it cannot be counted. Period. End of story. That is the law. That also, not up for debate, happened in the 2020 election. Ballots that could have been cured were not. Ballots that should have been cured were not. They were counted instead in violation of the law. But it does not explicitly mention the requirement to include a marker indicating that the signature was verified. So the Secretary of State's office issued instructions to the clerks that did not tell them that they were required to do this thing with the envelope. And as a result, it wasn't done. So ballots that were illegal were counted. And you have the Secretary of State, who's been in office now for quite some time, issuing incomplete and incorrect instructions to the clerks. How is it that somebody who has been in her position as the chief election official for all of these years missed such a glaringly easy requirement in her instructions? Could it be intentional? Maybe. Was it just an oversight? Maybe. Or maybe we're at a point now where, hey, this could be used in the general election too. So we're going to see what we can get away with in the primary. Again, I'm a cynic. I understand that. But it is Michigan that we're talking about, a place that even Democrats were concerned about voter fraud before the 2020 election. You got more coming up. You're tuned in to The Burning Truth. Do you remember when Starbucks got the bright idea to have 19-year-old baristas talk to you about race relations in this country when you're ordering your coffee? Remember that? Let's have the barista who hasn't lived life talk to you about race relations in the country early in the morning before you've had any coffee. How is that going to go? And of course, it didn't go over very well. Starbucks realized they had a big old giant mistake there. There's a few places, and I guess this just kind of proves how out of touch Democrats are right now, but there's a few places where if you're going to have a debate and a discussion about politics, you probably wouldn't choose those locations. You know, maybe some locations could be at the library, at a, well, I repeat myself, but I was going to say at a drag queen story hour for little children. You know, you could have a discussion with people about the state of politics and the upcoming election there, I guess, if you're a liberal, and probably be relatively, safe and comfortable in doing so. Could you cue my audio, please? This is Tim Walz, who keeps getting caught lying about everything in his entire life story, so much so that his entire family is voting for Donald Trump and not for him. But this is him telling you, hey, this is where you should probably have some interesting conversations with people because this is how we're going to win the election.
This thing's going to be a battle for the next 52 days.
Yep, battle.
It's going to be in rooms, just like this. It's going to be one door-to-door, call-to-call, $5 donation.
Okay.
Trying to have that hard conversation in the produce aisle with the person you saw there at the grocery store and ask, have you voted yet?
I'm not so sure if the place that you want to have a conversation with somebody about voting for Kamala Harris, I'm not so sure the grocery store is the place to have that discussion. While everybody is intimately reminded of how much more expensive things are now versus what they used to be. What was it that I saw yesterday at the store that I actually said $13 and put it back? And it was applesauce. It was applesauce for $13. Do you buy the applesauce packets for your kids by any chance?
Yes, I do.
$13 for applesauce.
Ranch was like $8 or $9 for like the actual Hidden Valley.
Yeah.
Just for like the smaller bottle.
Yeah.
wanted to cry.
I can only buy ranch bulk now. I mean, part of that is Harper sucks the stuff down with everything that she eats. But the other part is, you have to buy it in bulk because you have to at least feel like you're getting some value out of it. But $13 for like a week's worth of applesauce packets. It's applesauce. Like, I'm on the border of Michigan. For those of you in the more eastern parts of Indiana, like, that's where all the apples are. Like, they're literally right next door. Like, why $13? And sometimes you can get them on sale and they drop down a few bucks, but it's $13. Do you really want to have a conversation with somebody about voting for Kamala Harris in a freaking grocery store? Now, I've had 2 producers that I've gone through the price checklist of what prices of groceries used to be under Donald Trump versus what they are now. Just massive increases. Eggs right now. Eggs. Morgan, the thing of eggs that I used to get for $6, $18 yesterday. $18. And I don't, maybe. Who's the name of that guy that was running against Jim Banks? Who's that? Oh, my God. Rust. Yeah, John Rust? Whatever. Anyway, now that he's not running anymore, is he back to price gouging on eggs? Is that why eggs are so expensive? Because that guy got caught price gouging on eggs. I'm wondering if that's why eggs are so expensive now. $18 for eggs, folks. Eggs. Eggs. You did the story earlier. They're trying to get rid of your meat and dairy producers. Cheese, also more expensive, but still somewhat affordable. But your milk, crazy high. Like, it's just, you really want to go to the produce section and have this conversation with people? Hey, if you voted for Kamala Harris, you should probably vote for Kamala Harris. Really? Because I'm about to spend $400 on something that cost me $150 under Donald Trump. You really want to have this conversation with me right now? What are they going to do? They're going to respond with, I don't know, Ukraine? What are they going to respond with? They can't respond with manufacturing jobs. They've actually lost them. Trump gained them. That's always been an interesting, not always, but that's been an interesting line as of late with the manufacturing angle. Trump lost manufacturing jobs. We've actually grown them. No, it's actually the exact opposite. Folks, it was so... For those of you who don't know, we're in Michiana, and there's a little community here called Concord. And Barack Obama came to Concord. Now, that's in Elkhart County. And the reason that Barack Obama came here right before he left office is because out of all of the places in the United States of America, there was basically one county that was doing well under Barack Obama, and that was Elkhart County. Do you know why they were doing well in Elkhart County and nowhere else in the country? Because of RVs. Now, is that because Americans were buying RVs? Morgan, was that because Americans were buying RVs? No, Canadians were buying RVs. And the RV industry here in Elkhart County was booming as a result. It had nothing to do with Barack Obama's policies. But it's the one place that was doing okay that Barack Obama came here and made a big deal about it. And in that speech, he talked about how Trump was just going to wave a magic wand and bring all those manufacturing jobs back. What's he going to do? Just wave a magic wand? Well, to quote Joe Biden, son of a B word. Donald Trump waved a magic wand and all of those manufacturing jobs came back. And what did Barack Obama do? He emerged from his slumber of silence and said, you're welcome. I gave you those manufacturing jobs. Really? Because you were just in Concord telling everybody that those jobs are gone forever and that the new normal was that we weren't going to make those things anymore. And then you were trying to take credit for something that Donald Trump did. It's a major story for a long time. And now they're just pretending that it didn't happen. Biden has lost manufacturing jobs. Have I not given those numbers, Morgan? Keep giving those numbers every single month. It's kind of weird. They keep lying about it. So, yeah, if you're going to have a conversation, if you're a Democrat out there, you're going to have a conversation about voting for Kamala Harris, the grocery store, particularly the produce aisle, may not be the best place for you to have that conversation. Have a great night, folks. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.
Podcasts by Federated Media.